Morning. Progress. All right. Welcome to Frankenstein Science Lab over here. We're gonna try and overcome this noise, so bear with us. Amud Yomi of Kodesh Cheshvan, sponsored by Shab and Chain and Zavipi for the health and prosperity of the family and for the Hatzlacha and growth of Torah. Sponsored by Haimi family, they're doing the Shema. Joseph ben Algara Simcha Berachot Aliza Talia Sarah Bat Chanoch Haifel. I hope the recording comes out normal, but okay. All right. So yesterday we started the Gemara, the actual brachot, talking about the halachot of brachot. So I guess we'll find out what brachot we make on certain things. So the Mishnah said that on everything, all fruits, right? You say bar pri ha'etz, right? We said except for wine, which on wine gets its own special beracha. You say bar pri gefen or a gafen, depending on the girsa that you have. So the Gemara wants to know, the obvious question is, what's so special about wine? So the Gemara first asks by the two dots, about a third way down. The pasuk puts in the yayin. So the Gemara asks, "My shana yayin, why is wine different? That it gets its own special bracha?" So the first try is ilim and mishum de ishtani leluye. If you want to tell me the reason why it gets its own beracha, special beracha, is because when you change it from grapes to wine, it changes for the better. So therefore, therefore, since it gets improved by this process, it gets a special beracha. The Gemara says, 1 second. By oil, that also when it goes from olives to olive oil, it becomes better. Olive oil is better than olives. But we don't find that you get a special beracha. How do you know you don't get a special beracha for it? The Amr of Yehuda Mishmor v'chen Amr of Yitzchak Amr of Yochanan Shemen Zayit Mivarchem Allah Bar Pri Ha'et. If somebody has olive oil, sounds like straight up olive oil, right? Then you would make a Bar Pri Ha'et. So you don't get a special bracha. So that's out. So Amri, the Gemara says, 1 second. Hata Mishum Delo Avshar. By the case of olive oil, it's not possible. What are you going to make? What bracha are you going to make? Hechin Nevareh. So process of elimination is nivrach bar pri hazayid. Just like you had bar pri hagafen. So say bar pri hazayid, the one who created the fruits of the zayid, of the olives. But the Gemara says that won't work. Why? Because pera gufa zayid ikre. Because if you want to say that, since the olive itself is called zayid, so when you say bar pri hazayid, that sounds like it's going on the olives, not on the olive oil. So that bracha would not make sense. So the Gemara says, fine, that you're right, that doesn't work. Why don't you make a different type of bracha? Say it zayid. Say say a bracha, the one who created the fruit of the olive tree, which would be olive oil. That's what it should be. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. So we might have found another bracha, a special bracha to make on olive oil. So that's not the reason. Elam. Wine nourishes, it has nourishment. A person eats it, it gets a nourishment. Olive oil is not is not nourishing. 1 second. The Gemara says in practicality, really? Is that true? That olive oil is not nourishing? We looked in the Mishnah. I know there in Amazon, if somebody makes a promise, so the way the promise works is that he makes it asur onto him, right? He makes it forbidden onto him. Just like usually you have to use a lashon of korban, or the beginning of the Gemara in the beginning of Nidarim, where Daf Yomi is up to. We'll get there soon, hopefully. But the Gemara in Nidarim, it talks about how you make it on you like a korban, just like a sacrifice is asur, forbidden for somebody to have. You can't enjoy it. So too, what we call matabis b'korban, that means you're putting the isurim, the forbidden part of eating it, onto this food. So basically, you made it into a 614th commandment, right? Because now this fruit is also you're not allowed to eat it. So let's say you say, I'm making a promise that all food should be also to me. So the Gemara says, muter b'mayim u'b'mela. So you're right. Everything you're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to eat apples. You're not allowed to have steak. You're not allowed to have anything. The only thing that you're allowed to have, this is a great diet, is water and salt. That's it. That's the only thing you're allowed to eat. Good luck. So the Gemara asks a question. 1 second. So why isn't water and salt included in this promise? And therefore you're allowed to eat it, is because it's not called food. But that means only these two are not called food. Everything else, mazon. Everything else should be called mazon, should be called food, Maybe it should be a question. It should be a question on Rav and Shmuel the Amri that they say Ein mevarchen bari minem mezonot ela behei minem belvad. According to Rav and Shmuel, the only things you say bari minem mezonot are the 5 things, the 5 minim, which is wheat, barley, spelt, rye, and oats. Those are the only things, according to Rav and Shmuel, that you would say bari minem mezonot are. So this is a question, because if that's, you see, according to them, only 5 things are called mazon, not everything else. So this Mishnah that says that if you make a promise, I'm not going to have any food, any mazon, it's including everything besides mayim u'melach. According to Rabbi and Shmuel, it should only be the 5 grains. That's the only things that should be included. V'amar Rav Huna over there is said, no, over there the Mishnah is talking about Ba'omer kol hazan alai. Anything that's nourishing should be asur onto me. So what do you see? That anything nourishing, anything that's nourishment, is everything is included except water and salt. Those are the only 2 exceptions. So you see that oil is nourishing. So how could you tell me that oil is not nourishing and therefore it doesn't get a special bracha? Only wine is nourishing and therefore it gets a special bracha. You just found in a Mishnah in Nidarim that's not true. That oil is also nourishing. And that's how the Gemara over there fixed up the Mishnah, according to Rav and Shmuel. Alma Mishcha Zayin. So what do you see? That oil is nourishing. And therefore you should, according to that, if wine gets its own special beracha because it's nourishing, so therefore oil should also get a beracha because it's nourishing. So the Gemara says no. Ela chamra sa'id. Chamra, wine, is satiating. It satiates a person. It fills a person up. Umishcha loy sa'id. Sa'id is a little more than zayin. Zayin means nourishing, but a step higher than that is called sa'id. It's called being satiated. So satiation through wine happens, but if you have oil doesn't nourish a person. Now, practically speaking, the Gemara wants to know in mitziyut, in practical terms, v'chamra misayid, is that true? Does oil really satiate a person? If a person drinks wine, do they become satiated? V'harava, but Rava, haveshati chamra kol mali yama de pescha. Every Erev Pesach, he would drink wine. Right? On Erev Pesach, he would drink wine. I don't know if he would become intoxicated, not because he was nervous, but he would drink wine. Why would he drink wine? The Gemara explains. In order that you should get a hearty appetite and you'll be able to eat the matzah with an appetite at night. You have a lot of matzah, you have 5 kezetim, at least 4 kezetim. But 5 kezetim, if you want to be mahmir, if you want to hold the way we hold, it's almost 5 kezetim a person has to eat. It's a lot of matzah. So if you want to have that much matzah, so how would he get a good appetite? He would drink wine. So you see that wine doesn't fill you up. It doesn't satiate you. It does the exact opposite. It makes you more hungry. It gives you an appetite. So how can it be that the reason is because that you get a special bracha is because it satiates you, but that's not true. You see that it opens up your appetite, not satiates you, the exact opposite. The Gemara says it depends. Tuva garir. If you have a lot of wine, then it's going to open up your appetite. But purta side, if you have a little bit of wine, then it's going to satiate you, right? So it depends how much wine you have. Exact measurements, I don't know. I don't know if it's 3 ounces or 4 ounces. I'm assuming this is something goes based on a person himself. How much a person is, how much you're able to tolerate, and how much you'll open them up, and how much you'll close them up, right? How much you'll fill them up, and how much you'll open up their appetite. So scientifically, how much, I don't know, you guys have homework, maybe in this lab behind us, you could try and figure it out, how much wine it takes. So that's what the Gemara says. Fine. But the Gemara says, 1 second, you want to tell me that if you have a little bit of wine, then it satiates you, but is that true? Umi sa'id klal? does wine satiate you at all? Does it fill you up at all? Even with a little bit? The pasuk says, famous pasuk, "V'yayin yismach levav enosh." The wine will make happy the hearts of people. V'lechem, and bread levav enosh yisad. The hearts of people it will satiate. So what does it sound like? Nehama, bread is who decide. Bread is what fills a person up. Chamra loisai. All wine does is it makes a person very happy. It doesn't fill you up. So the pasuk is clearly telling you that wine does not satiate a person. So how could you tell me that a little bit satiates a person and therefore you should make a bracha on it? You see, it doesn't even satiate you at all. So the Gemara says, no, that's not how you read the pasuk. Elachamra, it's beitarti. Wine has two elements to it. It has two properties. First of all, soid, it fills a person up, it satiates a person, umisameach, and it makes a person happy. But nehama, just having bread, it only satiates a person, but it does not make you happy. So therefore, we go back to what we said, that a little bit of wine satiates a person, and therefore you make its own bracha. So if you're telling me that it satiates a person, it satiates a person, for bracha achrona, at the bracha afterwards that you say, why do you say me'in shalosh? You should say on it if it fills you up. V'achalta v'savata uverachta. You eat, you're satiated, and you should bless Hashem. So anything that satiates you, this is according to the Gemara's Havamina. We always think that means bread, but according to this, if it satiates a person, then the person should say berkat hamazon on it. Make sense? I guess so. Over there, there's a different reason. Over there by Shabbat, you have to be koveya suda. So what's called a suuda? Because that's called kiddush. You need kiddush b'makam suda. That's it. I don't know that. I never heard by kiddush. You have to be soveya. If you have to be soveya, I don't know if a kazayit worth of cake is going to do anything. I think you need a few kazayit to do something, especially Shabbat morning at 12 o'clock. If that's when you're starting kiddush, I don't think it's going to be side anything. But I don't know. I've never heard that. The reason why yain is because you need a b'makam suda. So therefore, what's something that's called the suuda somewhat is either a revit of wine or you have kazayit worth of mezonot. That's usually the reason, but not because it's side. Kazayit worth? I don't think so. At least not me, for sure not. Okay. So the Gemara says, so therefore, if you're telling me that it satiates a person, so if it satiates you, then you should say berkat hamazon. You should say all three berachot afterwards. Why don't you say that? So the Gemara says, really, technically, you would be right, but the problem is lo kebai inches to tatayu alayhu. Right? A person is not koveya suda. A person doesn't sit down to say, okay, let's go. We're gonna have suda shishit. We're gonna have wine. Right? No one's gonna. Well, maybe people will show up. But usually you don't sit down to have a suda. When you want to have a meal, you don't sit down to wine. You have a little bit of wine, or you have some wine with your suda, right? Depending on if you're having meat, you have red wine, I think, right? Or fish, there's white wine, right? All different types of wine. Something that goes with the suda, with your meal. It's not something that you sit down and say, okay, let's bring out the wine and we're going to sit down and party with wine. It just doesn't work. So therefore, since a person does not have a suda, doesn't sit down to a meal for wine, therefore, you do not say berkat hamazon on it. You only say berkat hamazon on something that you have that you're kaveya suda on, right? Even let's say mizonot. To skip the pages. But if somebody has enough mizonot, right? I think it's 239 grams, 240 grams, 245 grams, whatever it is. If somebody has enough mizonot, the person would have to wash, and then say berkat hamazon afterwards, right? So if you eat people who like to eat and drive or eat and do other things where they don't even realize how much they ate and they go through an entire box of donuts. So it could be that you might end up having to say berkat hamazon on it. Why? Because that's called being kaveya suda. If you're sitting down to eat mizonot right now and you have enough mizonot, you have enough of a shear, then you have to say berkat hamazon. But by wine, nobody sits down to just drink wine. It doesn't happen. It's not what you do for a meal. So therefore, a person would not say berkat hamazon. Now the question obviously is going to be, what about people who would sit down to drink wine. Let's say you have a party and you sit down, okay, Rabotai, let's drink wine. We're sitting down, we're going to have a meal of wine. Now what? According to that, you should say, Berachot Hamazon. Right? That's what we're saying. That should come out. So the Gemara asks the question. Now let's say, let's say somebody sat down to drink wine as their meal. Now what? What are you going to say? You're going to say Berachot Hamazon? So the Gemara says, so wait until Eliyahu Navi comes. Hopefully today he's coming. We can ask him this question, right? Ask him if somebody is Koveya, does he have to say Berachot Hamazon or not? But for right now, until he comes, Hashtamia Batla Dato Etzel Kol Adam. Since normal people do not sit down to eat, to drink wine as their meal, therefore, this guy that does it, we say his mind is as if it's nothing in comparison to other people. He's abnormal, and therefore even he would not say Berachot Hamazon. So it comes out that only by wine, since it satiates a person, right? Since even a little bit satiates a person, therefore it gets its own beracha. However, oil doesn't satiate a person, and therefore you would say Bar Priya 8. That's what we're coming out for right now. That's what the Gemara seems to say. So the Gemara says further, Gufa. What did we just say? Gufa always means we're going back to something we originally said, something that we said in the last member, the last Gemara, which we brought in Agav, as we say, we brought it in for a different purpose. Now we want to go and we want to explain it. So that's always Gufa. It means we just said this, and now we're going to try and explain it. So what did we just say? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmor v'chein Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Rabbi Yochanan. If somebody has Shem and Zayit, Mevarcham Alav, Bore Pri Ha'et. If somebody drinks oil, right? Your breakfast, you want to have oil. No, we don't have that here. But if somebody has oil for breakfast, right? What bracha do you make on your oil? Bore Pri Ha'et. Mara says, what's going on over here? Hey, Chitami. What are we talking about over here? If you want to say that you just take a cup of olive oil and you drink it. Actually, when I was growing up on the other side of town, there was a guy in Shul, very interesting guy. He told me, I was walking with him one time, and he told me, he's like, you should have a cup of, at least like a half a cup of oil every single day. He was a mechanic, and he told me, he's like, just like a car, you need oil to run, so too, your body, you need to run. So you should have some oil straight up every day. I asked my Rabbi, he told me you're crazy, and he told me, no, we don't do these things. He's like, it's not. So just, before you do these things, you take on these things. So the Gemara over here is going to tell us, after I did this Gemara, I'm like, this guy was nuts. Totally. He was like, what are you doing? What are you drinking straight up oil? Oil is not bad. Oil, if you have it with other things, olive oil actually has a lot of benefits to it to drink it. That's why on salad dressings, obviously they put a lot of other stuff that are not healthy, some type of a gum to make it stick together because the oil and the vinegar don't stick. So they have to put in different chemicals to try and make them to stick, the olive vinegar salad dressings. So that's not really healthy. But if a person has oil with other things, that actually can have a lot of, I'm not the scientist, I'm not a doctor. We have the doctors in the room. They can either attest or detest. But there is something to it, but to have it straight up, no, don't do that. So he says, what do you mean? So if we're talking about you take a kizayit of oil, a revit of oil, you want to make kiddush on it and drink it, the Gemara says, no way. Why? It is okay mazikle. Having oil straight without anything else, it damages a person. Why? They're telling you, truma is after you have produce, so you're supposed to take off. Well, midoraita, you could take off even a little bit for teruma. What we call teruma is the first thing that you have to take off, even a little bit. The Chachamim came along and said either 1/40th, 1/50th, or 1/60th, depending on how much a person wants to spend. And then afterwards, you have the 10th, and you have another 10th, and stuff that comes afterwards. Now, truma has to go to a kohen. Now, if anybody else has it, asur, you're not allowed to have it, right? Timing that. So, if somebody does drink or eat truma, so there's an extra, not only does he have to pay back the amount that it's worth, but you also have to add on a fifth, right? That a person has to do. So now, if somebody drinks oil that was truma, so let's say you had this barrel of truma, of oil, and you took off whatever it is, 1/40th, 1/50th, 1/60th, and you had it as truma, not only you, or somebody else. So now you have a cup of truma oil, and somebody goes and gulps it down in one shot, right? Not one shot, but somebody goes and gulps it down. So mishalim et keren. So you have to pay the principal of it, but you do not pay the fifth, the additional fifth. You do not pay on it. Now let's say hasach shemen shel truma. Now let's say you took the same oil, the same olive oil, and you smeared it on yourself, which was something that was a big thing back in the days. I don't think now we have creams and different ointments, but back in the days, what they used to do is they used to rub oil on themselves. That's how they used to do it. Sach shemen, right? It seemed to be very practical, very, very much practiced back in the day. So if you have it and you rub this oil of truma on you, so you pay meshalim et kerem, you pay the principal, and not just the principal, or meshalim et chomesh. So very clearly over here, if somebody drinks oil, it's not good for you. Right? It's not normally drunk, and therefore that's why you're patur from paying the chomesh, because it's only if you drink it, if you have some type of a benefit. But if somebody damages truma or hektish, then that's not included. We learned that from Pesukim. So the Gemara says it can't be talking about where you're drinking this straight. Right? It must be talking about where you're eating it with bread. You're taking your bread and you're dipping it in and you're eating it, right? Without garlic or anything else that makes it really delicious. You're taking bread, dipping it into oil and eating it. So what's the problem with that? If that's the way you're eating this oil, the pot is the main thing over here, and the shemen, the oil, is only something that's secondary. And the famous halacha is that v'tanan zeh haklal. This is a general rule. If you have something that's your main dish, and you have something that's a side thing in order to have it with it, or it's not your main thing. For example, if you have falafel and hummus, normal people, the hummus is a side thing, it's not your main thing. I know with my kids, they have ketchup and they sometimes have other food with the ketchup, right? The ketchup is their main thing, but sometimes they'll eat other things, but they literally, things that I don't understand, but okay, it's kids. So usually you have what your main thing, and it patters, and you exempt the thing that's not the ikar. If you're dipping something into something else, so the thing that you're dipping into is not your main thing, so you would not make a beracha on that. Famous question is cereal and milk, right? What bracha do you make? If you make a bracha on the milk, some people will never drink milk without cereal. It's only because if you have a sweet sugary cereal, then it makes the milk nice and sugary. So you're really having sugar, not really milk. So the question is, do you make a bracha, not bracha, right? For halacha lemaisa, for not right now. But anyway, this is the general rule is if you have something that's the ikar and something that's tafel, something that's main and something that's secondary, you make a bracha only on the main one, and therefore you do not make a bracha on the secondary. So over here, where you're taking your bread and you're dipping it into oil and eating it, so your bread is your main thing. You said hamotzi on it. So the oil that you're dipping into it is only secondary, and your person shouldn't make a bracha. So you don't want to make a bracha anyway on the oil over here. That's out. So what are we talking about over here? The Gemara says, Elam, how about you drinking this olive oil? Dekashati le ayidei anigran. Anigran was a type of a dish, of a food, and they would put in it oil. This is spoken about a lot in Shas. This is the type of food that they used to make. So therefore, you would have this oil in there, and that's how you're drinking it. The Amar Rabbi Bar Shmuel. So there's two types of ways of doing it. You have something called anigran, which is what we're talking about, which is maya disalka. The definition of that is water that you boiled up in beets, right? If you have beet water juice, I guess is the best way. It's not the beet juice, meaning you're not taking beets and crushing it and making it into juice. You're taking the water that you boil the beets in, right? And then you put oil in it. That's what we're talking about. Or else there was something else that was called anskirion, which is mayim dekulu shalki. Any other vegetable besides these beets, any other vegetable that you boil in water and you use that water, that would be called an asgirion. This is stuff that people used to have. So what do you see? Therefore, you have this angirion, this water from the beets, and you have the oil that you're putting in, you're mixing it together and you're drinking it, and that's what we're talking about. You would say a borei pri ha'etz. But the Gemara says, 1 second, same question. Im kain habele anigran ikar v'shemen tafel. Right? Again, you're coming onto the same thing on top of the Amud, Lamed Vav.
The anigra, this juice from the beets, is the ikar, is the main thing that you're drinking over here, and the oil that you're adding in is only is a secondary thing. If it's only a secondary thing, you should not make a berach on it. Same question that we just said. So again, you would not make a bracha on the oil. You would only make a bracha shehakol on the anigra. So the Gemara over here says, no, over here, what are we talking about? Is bechoshesh begrono. Somebody has like an ache in his throat, a sore throat, something that's paining him in his throat, so he's drinking it. So what they would do is they would have oil in order to, I guess, soothe the pain in their throat. Detanya, we learned in a Braita, hachoshesh begrono. Let's say you get to Shabbat, so by Shabbat there's a halacha that a person is not supposed to take medication, right? If you need it, obviously talk to your doctor and your personal Orthodox local rabbi, right? If you shouldn't take it, but the general rule is there is an Isur de Rabbanan. The rabbis came along and said that taking medication on Shabbat is Asur. Why? Because you might come to crush it, and crushing is an Isur de Raita, right? Is a prohibition from the Torah. Therefore, you're not allowed to take medication. Now, things that you could use as a medication, right? Let's say food that's a medication. Also, not you're using it to heal you. Let's say the classical example is, let's say somebody wants a tea. Somebody who has a cold, or something that's paining them. To Shabbat, they want to have a nice tea. So the question is, are you allowed to have it? Your whole intention is because you want it as something to heal you. So the halacha l'maisa is that a person could have it because any food or drink that a person normally drinks, even if now you want it for a health reason, is mutar. So if somebody wants to have a lemon, let's say, for example, and you want it because it helps out, apparently, that's what they say. So a person would be allowed to have it because some people have lemons, depending on where you come from. But lemons is a normal thing. Same thing would be, yeah. So these type of things, if it's a real food or a real drink and you want to have it for medical purposes, it would be mutar. But over here, this Braita says, somebody has like this sore throat. Don't put oil into your mouth with the intent to gargle it for refuah on Shabbat. Meaning, if you want to just drink it, then that's fine. But if you want to put it into your mouth to gargle it in order for it to be a refuah, that you shouldn't do. Don't put it in your mouth with intent for a refuah, for medical purposes, for healing. You take a lot of oil, you take a little bit of this angirion, this water that we boil the beets in, put a little bit of that, you put a lot of oil, mix it together, and you say, and you have it. Because over here, what's the ikar? The ikar is the shemen, is the oil. Therefore, you make a bar pri on that. The Gemara says, pshita, if you have mostly oil and you have a little bit of this beet water juice, yeah, so of course you make a bar pri on it. What other bracha should you make? So the Gemara says, no, the chidush over here, the novelty over here is ma'ud detema. I would have thought to say kiven de l'refuah kamachavin. Since you're drinking this drink, this potent, yeah, in order to have a refuah, to make you feel better, I would think maybe I would say you don't make a bracha on it at all. You don't make any bracha because it's for refuah. You're not enjoying it. But the Gemara says, Kamash Malan, kiven de itle hanamine by beruche. Since you're having benefit from it, you're enjoying it. Anytime you have enjoyment, you have to make a beracha. Now this opens up a huge sugya, right? Because we also have, let's say, for example, using this Gemara, if let's say somebody is forced to eat or drink something. So the Yalkut Yosef holds that if somebody is forced, since it's a machloket, if a person would have to make a bracha, the side that says that you do have to make a bracha is because of this Gemara. Because at the end of the day, you're enjoying. But some say that since if you're being forced, it's not really called eating. So therefore, he says, of course, according to us, Sefaradim, but we hold everything is sabal, safek beracha la'akel. Whenever you have a doubt, if you say a bracha, you don't say a beracha, right? This is also for the question would come up if you're enjoying. Let's say I remember as a kid, shouldn't say this on recording, especially doctors in the room is dangerous. But I remember as a kid, the bubblegum flavored, I think it's Tylenol, right? For the kids, the bubblegum flavor. As a kid, I really liked it, and my parents would only allow me to have it if I wasn't feeling well. One time, I had a younger sister that wasn't feeling well, and at night, when nobody was looking, I went to the refrigerator and I drank some. Delicious. It was the best at all because it's Mayim Ganavim Yitaglu, stolen waters are sweet. It was delicious. My parents came, they're like, what happened over here? I was like, did something happen? But over there, something that tastes delicious. Do you make a beracha on it? So that we already spoke out. Even though you're enjoying it and it tastes good, over there, since it is medicine, it's not a real food. Normal people, not kids, but normal people do not have it. So therefore, you would not make a beracha on it, even if it tastes good. Those are some of the halakha that come out of this. But this is a big thing. Anytime you have enjoyment from something, a person has to make a beracha. So on olive oil, we're coming out that you make a bore pri ha'etz.
Simply forced to eat something, like literally
Forced.
physically
Somebody,
forced.
talks about it, but let's say a matzah. If somebody forces somebody to eat matzah, if somebody forces somebody to eat mur, if the goyim came and they shoved it into your mouth, so is that considered eating or not? This is a big sugya, but just to throw it out there as fun and games for this sugya. Okay, go a little bit further. We have 3 minutes. So next Gemara. The Gemara says kimcha dechiti. If you have flour, wheat flour. So now exactly what this is it seems to be a big machlokes in the Rishonim. Rashi says this really means flour. If you go right flour that you take a, I don't know, good luck doing this, but you take a scoop of flour and you eat it. Question is which beracha you make. So it says that there's either two other options. Either they have like a float, oats type of a flour, or else it's a chopped up type of a flour or wheat that still wasn't chopped up well, and it still has a taste of wheat. But whatever this is, it's kimcha dechiti, is a Yehuda Amar bar pri adama, right? Because this is something that came from the wheat, so therefore you make a bar pri adama on it. And Rav Nachman Amar shahakol niya bidvaro. No, you make a shahakol on it. So Amalei Rav Rav Nachman. So Rava told Rav Nachman, who argued on Rabbi Yehuda, lo tiflak aleh to Rabbi Yehuda. Don't argue with Rabbi Yehuda. Why? To Rabbi Yochanan Mishmul kami kavati. Because you have Rabbi Yochanan, which we say Rabbi Yochanan, we always paskin like him. We always hold like him in halacha. Normally, we even Rabbi and Shmuel on one side, and you have Rabbi Yochanan on the other side. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, right? And not only that, you have Shmuel that says like Rabbi Yehuda also. So therefore, don't argue. Where do we go? They hold that on this, you say a bari pri adama. How do you know that that's the way they hold? If you have olive oil, which we just said before, you make a bari pri 8. Alma, what do you see? Even though it changed, meaning the olives went from olives to olive oil, still you say the same beracha. Over here also by this wheat, even though the ishtani, even though that it changed and now it became either this flour or it became this chopped up wheat that's almost like flour, but whatever it is, b'miltakai, you still say the same beracha. The Gemara says, 1 second, meat tummy. Is it at all similar? How could you compare the oil to the flour? Hatam let over there by the oil. You don't have anything that makes it, you don't have any other process after you make it into olive oil. That's it. Olive oil is the way it is. But by flour, the flour is not the end product. You make something better out of it. What do you make better? You make bread. That's the point of it. So therefore, maybe you would say a different beracha on it. Therefore, this middle stage, maybe you should say a different beracha, but maybe you should say a shakol. And I guess you'll finish tomorrow, 6:40.